Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Geoffrey Onyeama. He's the Foreign Minister of Nigeria. Thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure.
There are coups, military coups. We saw in Mali, we saw in Guinea. The ECOWAS held a meeting, slapped sanctions, but everyone is wondering, is this really becoming a threat to democracy in the region and even beyond?
Yes, for sure. It's a threat to democracy. Just a few years ago, after ECOWAS intervened in the Gambia to restore the democratic constitutional order there, we were patting ourselves on the back in ECOWAS as the sub-region that was now a model for democracy. So this is really a setback for democracy, what is now taking place, and clearly it is, it is a threat. It's an unfortunate precedent.
Right. So there was an extraordinary meeting of ECOWAS recently. Sanctions were slapped on some members of the ruling authorities in Guinea, in Mali. But is this doing anything, or are further sanctions on the horizon?
Well, we'll have to look at it. There are sanctions against the countries per se, but not yet targeted sanctions against individuals. So we might have to get there because one of the agreements was a timeline for restoration of democratic order. And so ECOWAS is insisting that these timelines be respected. And so the big challenge now is to see whether those timelines will be respected, because in Mali we saw a coup within a coup, so the question is whether the new leaders in Mali are going to respect what the previous leaders agreed to.
Well, if I listened to them correctly recently, they've already indicated that the timeline will not be respected and that the elections will be postponed. So they're essentially telling you, we don't care what you're doing.
Yeah, well, so clearly ECOWAS is going to wait and see, and if that is the case, made it clear the last meeting that those timelines are sacrosanct as far as ECOWAS is concerned. So clearly, if they are not respected, then ECOWAS will have to meet and reconsider further measures.
Right. Are you hoping that the African Union, the UN, the European Union will follow suit and also sanction those responsible to have more leverage?
Absolutely, yes. And, the African Union and indeed the UN and Security Council will take its lead from the ECOWAS position. So we would expect that the positions, the decisions we take will be also followed by them.
Right. I mean, would you agree that ECOWAS's credibility on at least the democracy issue is at stake right now?
Yes, well, the basic constitution of ECOWAS, is very clear about changes of government and so forth. So, the rules are clear within ECOWAS. So ECOWAS itself is a democratic, institution and pushes for that. Now, if member states go rogue, obviously that's a different matter, and it's for ECOWAS to address that.
Right. What about when heads of state go rogue? Because we know there's a debate about presidential term limits, that you can be president twice and then change the constitution. And in a way, some people are saying, well, this weakens democracy and opens the possibility of such coups.
Absolutely. You would have heard, I don't know if you did, the statement of the President of Nigeria at the United Nations.
Yes.
It was very clear. He said that part of the problem is this tenure elongation. These changes of constitutions that actually almost give a pretext for the coup plotters. So that also has to be addressed. And, and Nigeria is very much on the side of those that says recognize term limits and don't alter constitutions to facilitate tenure elongation.
Right. In Sudan, we're seeing essentially very tense face-off between the military and the civilian power. What are you calling for?
Well, again, we're calling for reversion to the status quo ante. We want the civilian component of that transition government to be restored, and again, for the time limits to be respected and the agreement that was made to be respected.
Right. I want to get to the issue of terrorism. Boko Haram or ISWAP, as the local branch of the Organization of the Islamic State is known, are huge problems still for Nigeria. The president said when he was elected, I'll take care of this issue. That hasn't happened, obviously.
It has to a certain extent. When he took over, there were a large number. Boko Haram was actually controlling territories and was foisting its flags and declaring caliphates in certain local governments. So that is no longer the case. So progress has been made there in terms of controlling the territories. So, but recently also there have been a lot of successes, and almost on a weekly basis, large numbers of Boko Haram fighters are giving themselves up. So there is progress being made there. But yes, they still exist. They still exist.
Right. There's also infighting between ISWAP, as it's not Boko Haram.
Yeah.
Might this be an opportunity for the government?
Absolutely, absolutely. Even within Boko Haram itself, we've seen that there are two factions and so forth, and one faction probably eliminated Shekau, the leader of the other faction, and this has also contributed and is an opportunity. But also a major change has been the changing of the security chiefs. And so there's a whole new approach, and there's some very sophisticated weaponry that's now available to them, and we're very hopeful that we can really now be on the last legs of this of Boko Haram.
Right, but there's still some actions. We've seen waves and waves of kidnappings in schools in Nigeria. Maybe this is partly criminal, maybe this is partly because of those groups. How do you deal with this issue?
Yeah, of course, we call them bandits at the moment, and there's a big issue as to whether to label them terrorists or just bandits. But there is a distinction, I think, between the terrorists, the core terrorists, and these. A lot of these bandits are like, they're into cattle rustling and kidnapping. But again, as I said, there's been a change of the security architecture within the country, and of course it's a real priority security-wise to address that situation as quickly as possible.
Right. France is redeploying its military operations in the Sahel. You might say it's not exactly Nigeria. However, there is concern even in France and other countries that the threats could move towards the Gulf of Guinea and so on. I mean, how concerned are you by the fact that the French are essentially reducing their presence in the Sahel for your country?
Yes, we believe that, of course, we would like the French to remain committed. And yesterday, there was a lunch with our president and President Macron. And the commitment from the French, I think, is still strong, And, we also discussed the Gulf of Guinea, or the two presidents discussed also the Gulf of Guinea. And, President Macron and President Buhari both agreed on the need for a regional approach. And I think this is very important. So that regional architecture is there, but the message we're getting is that the French are also still willing to cooperate with us in both the fight with terrorism and in the Gulf of Guinea. And as you know, President Macron is hosting today the meeting on Libya, which also plays an important role in that whole situation. So France is still engaged.
Right, but are you seeing the threat move from the Sahel towards Nigeria, for instance?
It always has done. It always has done. In fact, it started probably with the demise of President Gaddafi in Libya, because a lot of the fighters there are, foreign fighters, and a lot of them coming from the Sahel region. So they all descend to the Sahel. We're very insistent that as there is this elections next month, and
do you think there will be an election next month in Libya, given the circumstances?
That's true. Well, we'll see what happens. But the most important thing is, as those foreign fighters leave Libya, we're insisting that they should not be allowed to leave with their weapons.
Right.
They should be disarmed. Otherwise, as you say correctly, they're just going to shift the scene of the conflict.
And this could become a danger for your
real
country.
conflict for us.
The last issue I want to talk about is the restitution by some European countries or institutions of artworks to African country. This week there was a ceremony both here in Paris and in Cotonou in Benin. France gave back some artworks. I understand Germany is doing the same with Nigeria. Cambridge University, Aberdeen University. Do you think that it's high time that this happens on a large scale?
Absolutely, yes, we do think so. And incidentally, not just the artwork, but also the stolen funds, looted funds that are also in a number of these countries. We think that they should all be restituted and all repatriated to the countries of origin. And we welcome very much the initiatives that are being taken in Germany, France, US, and the US too is also, taking steps in this direction. So it's a very good thing.
Right, but it seems the British Museum, which holds the largest bronze collection in the world, has said no, we're not willing to do this. What is your reaction to that?
Yes, I mean, nothing is ever cast in stone, so it'll be a process, and hopefully we'll be able to persuade them that it is the right thing to do to restitute these things. But maybe also the fact that the Queen's crown also holds some, some jewels and whatever diamonds from from India and other countries. But anyhow, but we hope that they will change their mind with
right.
with
As a conclusion, it's symbolic, but it's also changing the way Africa and Europe are relating.
Yeah, absolutely. The European argument, or some of the European argument, is about access, that it's better here so that people can actually, be able to have access to these artworks and so forth, including the owners of the artworks. But we're of the view that, look, listen, property has an owner, it belongs to us, and it should be given to us, returned, restituted unconditionally.
Geoffrey Onyeama, I want to thank you very much for appearing on the France 24 interview.
It's a real pleasure.
And I want to thank you all for watching it. Stay tuned for more news.